Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I want to talk to you today about the secret war against Christians and Jews. Rabbi Daniel Lapin, known widely as America's Rabbi, is a noted rabbinic scholar, best-selling author, TV host. He's the head of the American Alliance of Jews and Christians. A dear friend of mine in New York City, Vince Morgan, a missionary to the Jews, sent me an article by Rabbi Lapin entitled "The Secret War Being Waged Against Christians and Jews in America." Lapin writes, "I am certainly not a Winston Churchill. I'm not even a Jean-Francois Revel. I am having enough trouble just trying to be a Lapin. But I am issuing a very serious warning about a problem with deep consequences, just as they once did. It's a warning about the earliest stages of what could become a cataract of disasters if not resisted now." During the 1930s, Winston Churchill desperately tried to persuade the English people and their government to see that Hitler meant to end their way of life. The British ignored Churchill, which gave Hitler nearly 10 years to build up his military forces. It wasn't until Hitler actually drew blood that the British realized they had a war on their hands. It turned out to be a far longer and more destructive war than it needed to be had Churchill's early warning been heeded. In 1983, a brave French writer, Jean-Francois Revel, wrote a book entitled "How Democracies Perish." In this remarkable volume, he described communism's aim as world conquest. For decades, he'd been trying to warn of communism's very real threat. Yet in January 1982, a high State Department official said, quote, "We Americans are not solving problems. We are the problem." Yeah, some things never change. A good portion of the planet fell to communism, which brought misery and death to millions because we failed to recognize in time that others meant to harm us. Heaven knows there was enough warning during the 1980s of the intention of part of the Islamic world to take yet another crack at world domination. Yet instead of seeing each deadly assault on our interests around the world as a test of our resolve, we ignored them. We failed the test, and we lost 3,000 Americans in 2 unforgettable hours. Now, I'm not going to argue that what is happening now is on the same scale as the examples that I have cited above, but a serious war is being waged against a group of Americans. I am certain that if we lose this war, the consequences for American civilization will be dire. Phase 1 of this war I describe as a propaganda blitzkrieg that is eerily reminiscent of how effectively the Goebbels propaganda machine softened up the German people for what was to come. There is no better term than propaganda blitzkrieg to describe what has been unleashed against Christian conservatives recently. Consider the long list of anti-Christian books that have been published in the past few years. Here are a few samples of more than 50 similar titles from mainstream publishers. Titles like "American Fascists," "The Christian Right and the War on America," "The Baptizing of America," "The Religious Right's Plans for the Rest of Us," "The End of Faith," "Religion, Terror, and the Future of Reason," "Piety in Politics," "The Right-Wing Assault on Religious Freedom," "Atheist Universe, the Thinking Person's Answer to Christian Fundamentalism," "Thy Kingdom Come, How the Religious Right Distorts the Faith and Threatens America," "Religion Gone Bad, The Hidden Dangers of the Christian Right." What is truly alarming, he says, is that there are more of these books for sale at your local large bookstore warning against the perils of fervent Christianity than those warning against the perils of fervent Islam. Does anyone seriously think America is more seriously jeopardized by Christian conservatives than by Islamic zealots? I fear that many Americans believe just that. In the same way that many pre-World War II Western intellectuals considered Churchill a bigger threat to peace than Hitler. Some may say that today's proliferation of anti-Christian print propaganda is nothing to become worried about. To them I ask two questions. First, would you be so sanguine if the target of this loathsome library were blacks or Jews? Just try changing the titles in some of the books I mentioned above to reflect racism or anti-Semitism instead of rampant anti-Christianism, and you'll see what I mean. Second, major movements that changed the way Americans felt and acted came about through books, often only one book. I think of Rachel Carson's 1962 error-filled Silent Spring that resulted in the pointless banning of the insecticide DDT and many unnecessary deaths. Other books that caused upheavals in our nation were Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, many of Ayn Rand's books, and of course Uncle Tom's Cabin. No, I would advise you not to underestimate the power of books to alter the behavior of American public, and I fear for an America that has been influenced to detest Christianity by this hate-filled catalog. It's not just books, but popular entertainment also that beams the most lurid anti-Christian propaganda into the hearts and minds of viewers. One need only think of who the real targets of the comedic movie Borat are. The brilliant Jewish movie maker Sacha Baron Cohen, portraying this title character Borat and using borderline dishonest wiles, seeks to lure some innocent but unsophisticated countryfolk, obviously Christians, to join him in his outrageously anti-Semitic antics. Cohen then triumphantly claims to have exposed anti-Semitism. In truth, he has revealed nothing other than the latent anti-Christianism of America's social, economic, and academic secular elites. Many other movies and television productions echo this shameless anti-Christian bigotry in the name of entertainment. Interestingly enough, their courage in attacking Christian beliefs is never displayed by similarly irreverent and insulting assaults on Islam. Even a recent PBS documentary, Anti-Semitism in the 21st Century, The Resurgence, managed to do more attacking of Christianity than defending of Judaism. Richard Dawkins, an Oxford University professor, is one of the generals in the anti-Christian army of the secular left. American academia treats him with reverence and hangs on his every word when he insists that religious myths ought not to be tolerated. For those with a slightly more tolerant outlook, he asks, quote, "It's one thing to say people should be free to believe whatever they like, but should they be free to impose their beliefs on their children?" End of quote. He suggests that the state should intervene to protect children from their parents' religious beliefs. Can I add that that is happening now? Forgive the analogy, in spades. Needless to say, he means Christian beliefs, of course. Muslims' beliefs, apparently, add to England's charmingly diverse cultural landscape. The war is against those who regard the Bible to be God's revelation to humanity and the Ten Commandments to be his set of rules for all time. Phase one of this war is to make Christianity, well, sort of socially unacceptable. Something only foolish, poor, and ugly people could turn to. We have seen how carefully constructed campaign pretty much made it socially unacceptable to drink and drive. For years there had been stringent laws against drunk driving, which achieved little. In the end, the practice was all but eliminated by groups allied with Mothers Against Drunk Driving and their effective ways of changing the way Americans thought about it. Rabbi Lapin suggests that, quote, "We have seen how a carefully constructed campaign has pretty much made it socially unacceptable to smoke. In the face of a relentless campaign, dare one call it propaganda, Americans became docile and forfeited the right to make their own decisions. Nobody was willing to stand up to the no-smoking tyrants. Nobody even asked whether health was sufficient grounds for freedom to be reduced. Now entire cities and even states have banned smoking, not only in public places, but even in privately owned restaurants." He calls this a form of tyranny and suggests tyranny comes when citizens are seduced into trading freedom for the promise of safety and security. He then points out how the considerably more intellectual energy is being pumped into the propaganda campaign against Christianity than was ever delivered to the anti-smoking or the anti-drunk driving campaigns. Fervent zealots of secularism are flinging themselves into this anti-Christian war with enormous fanaticism. If they succeed, Christianity will be driven underground, as its benign influence on the character of America will be lost. In its place, we shall see a sinister secularism that menaces Bible believers of all faiths. Once the voice of the Bible has been silenced, the war on Western civilization can begin, and we'll see a long night of barbarism descend on the West. Without a vibrant and vital Christianity, America is doomed, and without America, the West is doomed. Which is why I, an Orthodox Jewish rabbi, devoted to Jewish survival, the Torah, and Israel, am so terrified of American Christianity caving in. Many of us Jews are ready to stand with you, but you must lead. You must replace your timidity with nerve and your diffidence with daring and determination. You're under attack. Now is the time to resist it. Defense will be far harder down the road if we ignore the danger signals now. This was published by the American Alliance of Jews and Christians. It's a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. We need to think about it.